All right, let's talk about it because if the Broncos were bad week one, this game against Pittsburgh was even worse. And I mean, let's just talk about the Broncos offense. Let's get that out of the way. None of the position groups that I talked about that needed to step up in my last video, none of them stepped up. I mean, the running backs didn't run the ball well when Sean Payton actually called the run. The O-line wasn't great. I know they had their hands full, but I mean, when they needed to be disciplined, they got false starts. They were in illegal formation, so they got holding calls. It just set the Broncos offense backwards. When you were behind in a game, you got to be on pins and needles. You got to be on point if you're an offensive line, and they aren't so far through the first two games. And then the receivers. There were drops again. I mean, Greg Dulcich had two of them. If the Broncos need one position desperately in the offseason, it's tight end, because I don't think you can rely on anyone as a pass catcher, and that would open up this offense. But having two drops from Dulcich is a killer. And then just not having an ability to give Bo Nix enough time to find receivers in the passing game, combined with not having a running game. And give Pittsburgh credit. They played a great defensive game. So it just was all working against the Broncos today. And part of that was Pittsburgh's game plan, because, my gosh, they ran the ball early and often in the first half, and they controlled time of possession in this game. I mean, I don't have it in front of me right now, but I mean, it was lopsided when I saw the first half time of possession. It was like 18 minutes to 11 minutes in favor of Pittsburgh, and that's just not good enough. And then, I mean, that was almost 3 drives for the Broncos. And when you put a rookie quarterback in a position to only have 3 drives in one half, it just magnifies the mistakes of a young quarterback and a young offense even more. So credit to Pittsburgh in that sense. They were also good on third down in the first half. I mean, I think they only missed 2 third down attempts. I mean, that's impressive, and that's a backbreaker for a defense. And then that led specifically to their 1 touchdown drive. And then Broncos' mistakes led to the other 2 field goals that the Steelers had. And that was the turnover on downs near the end of the first half, and then the interception in the end zone after the Wildcat downfield play from Bo Nix to Josh Reynolds. When you have limited possessions in a game, your mistakes are magnified. And when you're not getting help from your receivers or O-line, and they're making mistakes or they're having penalties, for a young quarterback, your mistakes are magnified. And the interception in the end zone for Bo Nix was just the backbreaker for this team, if they even had a shot at winning. That's just the reality. This Broncos offense is just, they don't have an identity right now. And it stands out from a quote coming out of the Broncos locker room from Riley Moss, who said, "The Broncos are still trying to figure out their identity." And I would say that's pretty true for a young team. You're trying to find yourselves, and it's on the job. You can only do so much in practice. You can fix the mistakes, but you really got to feel the flow of a game, and you really got to figure out what you do best. And I think the coaches are trying to figure that out. The players are obviously trying to figure that out. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on Bo Nix to try and do as much as he can, given all the adversity he's faced so far through 2 weeks against good defenses. He's doing everything he can to try and overcome all of that. So it's going to remain ugly for some time. I mean, the Broncos are going to Tampa next week. That's another good defense. That's another playoff team coming out of the NFC South. And then you take on the Jets on the road, who just beat the Titans after getting smacked by the Niners in week 1. And that's another good defense that you're going to play. So it doesn't get any easier for the Broncos. I mean, this is going to be a lot of growing through the first few games of the season. But, I mean, let's just go back to last year. The Broncos offense with Russell Wilson didn't know who they were. And this game would obviously feel a lot different if Russell Wilson had been the quarterback in this game. Obviously, Justin Fields was playing, so it kind of took, like, the meaning out of the game. But still, it's still a disappointing game for the Broncos. But back to the point about the offense trying to find themselves. Last year, it really took till week 7 when they sort of found their footing and mistakes didn't cost them touchdown opportunities. And they started finding the end zone more. And the defense, and that's when the defense started to pick things up. The defense has been good through 2 weeks so far. They had a bad third quarter against Seattle, but I would say besides the one touchdown drive, the defense was great. So if that continues, you just got to get the Broncos offense going. And there's a lot to clean up. We could go on and on about it, but it's going to be bad before it gets good. I mean, it probably sounds cliche, but that's the truth. And I think for Bo Nix, he doesn't look like a bust, but I mean, the Broncos got a lot of work ahead of themselves. Let's just put it that way.